So when it comes to who you advertise to and what you advertise to, one thing that is really important is Casey. He's my friend. So when I go on my insights, I use this at least twice a week. So I go on my insights, there's loads of information, but I go down to the side and I go down to people. So this is my audience. So right now, and this is the reason why I chose to come to Manchester out of everywhere else, because obviously London and Brighton are very near each other. But effectively, if you look at my entire audience, I've got 80% men, 19% women, leading me to believe that 1% is neither of those. And therefore, if you look, tiny, not too much, tiny, gone. And so pretty much my entire audience is there. So first thing I'm going to do is, if I'm going to advertise, I really want more girls to be on my page. But how much do I want to pay? Because if this says for 70, so 37 and 32, for 69% of my audience is male between 18 and 34. And only 16%. So effectively, I'm gonna, for every pound that I put into male, I'm gonna have to put in 6 times the amount. So for every pound I'm putting in to get a dude, I'm having to put £6 in to get a female. So I'm like, do I really want girls involved that much? No offense. So it would be nice, but no. So effectively, then I'm looking at it going, okay, good. So that's gone. That's probably gone. So if I'm going to advertise, even though it's 37, 32, I'll take the punt. I'll probably advertise between maybe, I'm guessing, because it's sort of, that's next to nothing, I'm guessing it's probably in between the two. So it's probably 19 to 20, and this is probably about 30 to 32. So I'm taking a punt that's my audience. Male, 19 to 32 is probably 65% of my entire audience. Now, when it comes to advertising, I know that my demographic is really being pushed. So an example is, I've got a friend who, this is on camera, so I should be careful what I say. I've got a friend who is, she is a female singer-songwriter. She's absolutely brilliant, and she dresses up. She looks like someone off Game of Thrones. So she's really hot, and she has like a big sword. It's like brilliant, but it's like proper Dungeons and Dragons. She's figured out that her audience is basically 40 to 50-year-old Dungeons and Dragons comic book guy, is effectively it, right? And she's just gone, but like, I like making this music, and that's my audience. So rather than force anything else, I'm going to go with my audience. And so when she advertises, instead of saying, well, Dungeons and Dragons, she goes, all right, well, it's going to be people who like Game of Thrones, and it's going to be people like Lord of the Rings. The problem with that is, I have probably liked Lord of the Rings or something to do with Lord of the Rings. It's too vague. I'm not her demographic, and therefore, but I might like Lord of the Rings. So she's got to delve deep. So if she puts in Lord of the Rings, she's going to get too vague. My mum might like it, I might like it. So what she's got to do is she's got to delve deep. She's got to go into Lord of the Rings, and she's got to find some character from Lord of the Rings. So she goes and finds Gimli. And it's like, right, so anyone who likes the page Gimli is a fucking geek for a start, right? And that is her target audience, because she's going, if you like Gimli, you like Lord of the Rings. If you like Lord of the Rings and Gimli, you're a geek. If you like all of those three things together and you're between this age, you're probably more likely to like my page. And when you go to the Lord of the Rings page, it says 30 million people like something to do with Lord of the Rings. When you go to Gimli, it says only 100,000 people like it. So if you're going to put a tenner in, you're only going to get your 1,000, 1,500 people seeing it. So you might as well make sure that that target is as targeted as it possibly can. So this is the stuff I'm constantly looking at. So then what I do is I go down into the cities, for example. So for me, I noticed that I did a bunch of advertising to push my stuff out. My page has about 5,000 American people who like my page. None of them give a shit at all. There's about 20 Americans that constantly talk to me, and there's 4,800 people who couldn't give a shit what I do. So I was like, well, I don't want to, it obviously doesn't translate. Obviously the American people are just kind of going, who's this dickhead? Can't understand a word he says, and therefore they might like it, but I'm not getting in front of them. So any kind of advertising at this moment in time, until I figure that out, I keep it well away from there. So I'd love to go international, but if someone checked it out, they'd kind of go, you're not really international. Because I see the cities, and then the nearest city I've got, or the outside city, is New York, and I've done 2 or 3 blogs from New York, so reality is probably people who've liked that blog. And And so when I look at my stats, London, Brighton, Manchester, Leeds, and Kent. After that, then it starts to drop down heavily. But you're looking at those places up north, down south, that are my audience. So when it comes to advertising, I know that it's translating quite well to these cities. So I'm constantly trying to hem in.